Hi, everybody, and welcome to Astrology Unplugged. Another night of saving souls, another night of unplugging people who are plugged. People get moving. The people who are stuck. They said they're stuck. We're going to try to unstick them. Okay, so now it's nice to have you with us and the YouTubers and everybody live. And it's very exciting for me to welcome back Joao. He has been with us for quite a while. Then he took a job on Thursday night, so we've missed him for a while. He's our guest tonight. He's a Brazilian who lives in
Canada.
He lives in Canada. That's right. He lives in the Toronto area. I can't keep track of him. He lives in the Toronto area. He's a Cancer. His chart's on fire. There are a lot of things going on. We're going to get right to it. I want to tell you one thing right away. Watch this. This is Joel's chart. Okay. All right. Now, Joel, in your chart, Uranus goes around the sun every 84 years. 84 years. And it just so happened that Uranus is really regular, 7 years per each sign, but Chiron's really irregular. It comes in some signs for 2 years, other signs for 15. So it's on this really wild ellipse. Because it did that, these two stayed opposite each other for 37 years. From 1952 to 1989, approximately, these two stayed opposite each other, even though one's a 51-year orbit and one's an 84. And when you have these two opposites, and when they're placed critically, these are major symbols of somebody who should quit what they're doing and become a full-time astrologer. That's
Thank
what
God
this
I'm studying it.
I know. That's why I'm jumping on you right away. And that's why other things are just not going to work. I think you've got tremendous skill. And it's almost everybody I know that's really good at astrology has this opposition. Remember 1952 for 37 years till 1989 is their birth. But when it goes across your ascendant, and while transiting Uranus is sitting right here, transiting Uranus has gone from here, is sitting right there. So, glad everybody's joining us tonight. The meaning of Uranus opposite Chiron, remember this started in 1952, but Chiron was not discovered till 1977. When I look back at 1977, now it's pretty easy to see this was the beginning of all these people wanting to be healers, wanting to do energy work. And the meaning of Uranus and Chiron is alternative types of healing. The alternative being Uranus, the healing part being Chiron. So people that have this are usually pretty obsessed with it. Notice that our Claudia has the same thing significantly placed. I've got it too, but mine's not as strong. My astrology is from Sun opposite Uranus right across his ascendant, right across it. And that's why I can't talk about anything else. Okay, so we're going to take you apart in pieces. And we're going to look in the past life and do the general thing that you've been watching. I appreciate you taking a night off to join us. And this will be recorded for you. And I'll put it on the web unless you pay me a lot of money. If you pay me, I won't put it up. Okay. Now, there goes Eric. I can't answer your questions already. All right. Let's go. Here's Joel's chart. Now, remember, we're dealing with a Cancer personality. Okay, we got a Cancer sun, and therefore the moon placement is really important. Everybody's moon is a big deal. It's your second most important planet. I'm starting to learn to slow down. But a Cancer's moon placement is extremely critical because they're ruled by the moon, and his moon is in Aries. So we can stop right there and talk about that. When a Cancer has a moon in Aries, it's got a lot of good things about it. When you have a Cancer, you have to look immediately in the chart and hope that there are other aspects in the chart that keep them from being too timid. And a moon in Aries is sure not timid. Moon in Aries is, I got to say something, boom, I say it. My feelings come in, they go right back out in general. So it's really a pretty good placement for you. Now, I've seen other people like Leos, you don't give them a moon in Aries. Sagittarians, you don't give them a moon in Aries. It's too much fire. So all in all, even though Aries is square to Cancer, even though the two are square, and there'll be some problems. Anytime you get a square, there's some problem. But the fact that you have that moon in Aries, which is all about being impulsive and not being cautious. So you're really caught up between being cautious and not being cautious. And I'm sure that's no picnic, but I'm sure by now you're pretty much used to it. But I like that combination. Now let's go into the rest of the chart. Now, not only is Mercury at 23 degrees of Cancer, it was born when it was born retrograde. Now, people don't know this when they're born with a retrograde Mercury or any planet, except the sun and moon, but that only stays around for 21 years at the most. So what year did you grow out of this? And the way you do that is you animate the chart. And you animate the chart by day, by days. I gotta go back and let somebody in here. Hold on. There we go. If I animate it by days, and each day we move forward represents a year of life. You were born with the Mercury going retrograde. We want to count each day because it can only go up to 21 days, and then it has to stop. Did you know this, Joe?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's a good sign. All right. So in your chart, we animate you by days. We're watching this red. We want to see this red turn black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So you were pretty much born with a stationary Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that's very significant because we're seeing around age 20, your Mercury goes direct, and that's the same year that Uranus squares itself, age 21. So around age 19, 20, 21, your mind, which was in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer is already like Mercury retrograde, because retrograde means you're keeping things inside, you're not expressing it directly, you're holding on to it a little bit longer. It's not a dramatic thing. It's not like us all going through the time period each 90 days when Mercury goes retrograde. People born with Mercury retrograde tend to have slowness developing in their speech, slowness developing in their schooling, whatever it is. We're not sure what it is. And it's really not slowness, it's just their speed. But all of a sudden, at age 20, your mind started to pick up. Now, what's interesting about that, that's around the time you get to college. So what looked like was changing in your life was because you went to college, wasn't because of that. It was because Mercury went direct. So what happened in your life?
I moved to Canada.
Okay. All right. And also you would look in the chart, what houses does Mercury rule? You may see progress in those areas. The houses with Virgo on them, the houses with Gemini on them, those are houses ruled by Mercury. And in your chart too, Brendan, your chart has all kind of abilities as an astrologer, so you should be paying close attention. Did you all know that there's a free course out here?
Yes.
Okay. okay, if people listening don't know, I got tired of teaching after 32 years. And last year I put a full course up here, Beginning Astrology. You can type in Rick DiClemente Beginning Astrology. And I taught it for 8 weeks, and then COVID hit. So I took 2 weeks off, then I finished it. But they're 10 weeks in a row. They're an hour and a half each. They're all based on the books that we wrote. And it's totally free. You can go at your own pace. Okay, so we see your Mercury. When you got to Canada, it looked like, boy, your mind's changing because you're going to another country. But what changed with your mind, the way your mind worked?
And something else that happened at around the same time is that my progressed sun went into Leo.
Well, that's really huge. Progressed sun going into where it rules, coming out of Cancer. So in many ways, you came out of it. So what happened to you when you got Canadian?
I also came out. And
That's humongous.
yes.
Everything was ready. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's go back to your chart. So the Venus is in Gemini, and the Venus is very critical here because, wait, I got the right thing? No.
That's the progressed chart.
Well, it's not the right chart. Okay. The Venus is at 16. Yeah, you saw at age 20, your Venus opposed Neptune. Exactly. That's probably the coming out.
Hmm.
All right. Now, Venus is 16 degrees opposite a 20-degree Neptune in Sag. So the Venus in Gemini, and it's retrograde. So let's see when the Venus goes direct. When Venus and Mars are retrograde, those are very rare. Venus is your socializing ability, and it's in Gemini, which is very talkative and friendly and lots of different friends, different types. But let's find out, thank goodness Mars is in retrograde. Let's find out when this Venus changed. So we'll animate it again. This time we'll jump by weeks. Make it go faster. 7.
I think my Venus went direct.
Yeah,
A couple days after I was born.
Yeah, a couple of days. Yeah. So you wouldn't even notice something like this. So your Venus went direct right away. Okay. Now Venus, we've got a dichotomy here because the Venus is real lighthearted in Gemini, but it's in the 8th house, which is like having Venus in Scorpio. So we don't quite know what this Venus is. It's kind of lighthearted. It's also kind of heavy duty. And it's opposite Neptune. Okay. Now, when Venus is opposite Neptune, it's very common, since Venus is your going out and getting a partner, going forward to get a partner, partnering. Venus and Gemini people are flirtatious. They want to have fun. They want to have fun. They like meeting people. Now, when it went direct, which was when you were very young, okay. But the point is, the Venus is opposite Neptune. Now, when it's opposite Neptune, Neptune is very mutable, and so is Gemini. So it's very mutable. It's not like other signs. So the problem with Venus in Gemini is you get scattered too thin. You get involved with too many people. You just get scattered too easily. And remember, the basic nature of a Cancer is to be cautious and protect the self. So that's why we work with a pencil and we're starting to sculpt this chart. Okay? But we know that there's a tendency with Venus and Gemini, opposite Neptune, to have difficulty in relationships because you see what you want to see. That's what happens. When somebody's not good for you, you look past it. When somebody is good for you, you look away from it. So it's hard to see the Venusian part of your life clearly. And that's because you're just so idealistic about it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to work at that. And oftentimes, I'm going to tell you people clearly, Oftentimes, when you got screwed up planets, opposite Neptune, opposite Saturn, opposite Pluto, oftentimes these parts of your charts end up being your strength. Stephen Arroyo. Why? Because you have to mess with it all the time. It messes with you so much, you have to work so much with it, especially Venus opposite Saturn. You can end up being a perfect socializer with Venus opposite Saturn because you have to work with it so much. This is why Saturn problems in charts are so unbelievably common for people that are successful, because you have to keep working at it. And that's how you get good at it, and that's how you improve it. So we know you've got a sensitivity to people, and you've got Venus opposite Neptune is a lot like having Venus in Pisces. And that's a very nice placement that's indicative of somebody who has unconditional love. All right, so we're building. Okay, now, Mars is over here. Here's where we get into trouble. Mars is not only in Virgo, it's next to Saturn in Virgo, and it's not too far away from Jupiter in Virgo. This is the real mystery of your 12th harmonic. Why did Joao give himself 3 planets in Virgo? Okay? And the moon at 4 is very widely opposite Mars and out of sign, so it's not real strong. But this is a T-square. Look at this T-square. This Venus opposite Neptune, 16 to 20, sends its T-square to 21, Saturn. So here's the Venus opposite Neptune, 16, 20, T-square to 21, Saturn. The Venus in Neptune is faulting in terms of being too lenient, too open, too accessible for the T-square to Saturn, which is too close. So I don't know what's going on yet, and I'm starting to talk to myself about this because I've studied this chart real hard tonight. You've got this mix-up in there somehow of turning on the gas with relationships, but then putting on the brakes. Turn it on, put on the brakes. I don't understand it. And it doesn't matter because it's going to work itself out as we discuss this tonight. Does this surprise you, this issue?
No.
Okay. It's a big issue, and it's very confusing. And you set it up for a reason we don't know yet. But you put 3 planets in Virgo, not 1 or 2, 3 of them. Okay. And you know what Virgo's like. So let's go back because we're going to just keep on building and sketching with our number 3 lead pencil. Here's a T-square to the sun. Pluto is opposite this new guy called Aries with a T-square to the sun. Whoa! Power to the sun, and the sun's in Cancer. Well, I don't care if the sun's in Cancer, it's still the sun, shining bright. But Cancer doesn't like the sun shining bright. Gets too much attention. But the sun's going to shine bright. If it looks to the right and it sees Pluto, and it looks to the left and there's Aries, you got a shiny sun. So we know for a fact that in your Cancerian nature, we've got to keep your sun stoked. Got to keep that fire going. We can't let the Cancer sensitivity and the worry of Cancer, which is the worry of being abandoned, we can't let that dominate you. We just can't do it because the sun's too bright. There's too much force there. So in your life, if I were you, I would be spending a lot of time in my life trying to study what the word abandon means. And there's only one answer to that. In my opinion, are you going to abandon yourself? It's that simple. Cancers get real upset about abandonment, and then the real advanced ones learn they can't be abandoned because they're not going to abandon themselves. And I'm suggesting already, little birdie just went by. As part 1 of tonight's going to be about that. It's going to be about self-abandonment. Okay. Was when you abandon yourself, you don't have to be responsible for anything. All hell's going to break loose, but you don't have to be. But Cancer can be a very irrational sign. All right, let's keep building. I think it's very interesting. All right. So you got this massive T square to the sun. You get this other minor T square to Mercury, but Pluto's sitting there. You got Eris opposite Pluto to Mercury. Pluto's sitting at 23, 24 here on the opposite wake point. This is called the wake, like the wake of a ship. So Pluto is sitting opposite this Mercury. And I found 3 major transits I wrote down. They're all going on right now. And this is all because the time is right. Pluto going on Mercury, and that was a retrograde Mercury, but it's not. Pluto going on Mercury now is changing that Mercury to be like a Mercury in Scorpio. And the difference Mercury in Cancer is very sensitive. It's even psychic. It's very intuitive. But in Scorpio, it's much more of a detective, researcher. Okay? Now, how are you experiencing the Pluto hitting your Mercury? Because it's been there well over a year now.
It's when I really started studying astrology and
Okay.
signed up for the courses, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when I committed to it.
Why does this say event of July 4th, 1980?
That's my birth.
Yeah, but why does it say? It should be saying your name with your last initial. Okay, it's all right. All right. Yeah, okay. So with Pluto hitting that Mercury, it's not because it's time for you to learn astrology. It's time the Mercury's in the 9th house. It's time that you start digging deeper into your mental philosophy. I got this philosophy, you always had it till now, but where did it come from? We haven't gone to past life yet. And now you see with astrology, it's probably one of the greatest tools there is to dig into that kind of stuff and start to figure out the subterranean. What's causing all this stuff? Where's this stuff coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Now that Plutonic Mercury is going to really help out with that Pluto opposition to Aries. It's going to help it. It's like those same energies. It's alike. So it's going to blend well and be harmonious with your efforts to research and dig deeper and follow archetypal patterns, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going now. All right. So the next thing I noticed, which is just massive, you've got this massive T squared to Saturn in Virgo. And boy, it gets confused with the 12th harmonic. You got this Venus Neptune, this really nice person, this flirtatious, really nice person, but we're really keeping it controlled. Yeah, but we like to meet people and talk to them, but we like to keep it controlled. So this whole triangle is going on and on and on. You're driving with your brakes on. Mars is next to Saturn. And here's Neptune. Neptune's at 21. Neptune is right opposite Saturn right now. Okay. Well, I've seen a lot of people recently that
I
have.
kind of lost you there for a bit, Rick.
Yeah, I saw my message.
Yeah.
When Neptune is opposite your Saturn, the part of you that's kind of uptight has been keeping a lid on things, and it's been the drill sergeant, the Saturn part that's been strict with you and probably needed to be. Neptune is now talking to it, and your Neptune part is your God part. It's your grace part. And the Neptune part is saying, look, we understand what you've done, but it's time to start loosening up. We don't have to keep holding you out like this. We can loosen him up and he's probably going to be okay. Okay? That's exactly what's happening. And Neptune, I have found on Saturn is very good because of what I just said. The party that wants to loosen is talking to the part of you that's not convinced by anything, doesn't have faith in anything. It's just keep control as a drill sergeant. But the Neptune starts to loosen it. So you will know by looking at this that it's time for all three of your Virgo planets to start to loosen up a little bit.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Just because we lost you for a moment, you're now talking about the transiting Neptune in Pisces opposing my Saturn, my natal Saturn.
Yes,
correct?
yes, and I wasn't sure which part got lost.
Okay.
Yeah, the transiting Neptune is sitting at 21 opposite the Saturn at 21, which sits at the point of the T-square.
Mhm.
So when that T-square, you're born with it, your body and your mind and everything in you gets used to that flow of energy, no matter how warped it is or whatever. It's the Venus Neptune sending it to Saturn. You just get used to that, even if it's blockages, and that's definitely a blockage. But then when Neptune comes along, it says, well, it's time, because Neptune knows what your highest wisdom is. That's what Neptune is. It's the Holy Spirit. It knows what's best for you. And Neptune's telling Saturn, okay, it's time to chill out and back off of this Saturn. Psh, turn the rheostat. And you should probably be seeing this in your life. In other words, these issues you've always had with relationships of all kind of relationships, you should be at a point now where you're just starting to go, because cancers in the past, oh, they're all uptight about the relationship. What if he hurts me? Ooh. But when the Neptune's there, that's what's happening. And it's not happening because of some thing out there. It's happening because of this thing in here. Wisdom. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And the fact that you're feeling it is a very good sign. In the old days, people didn't feel this stuff. You had to explain it to them. They just look at you like, they did. Okay. So all kind of things could be said about this. The Saturnian part of you that's really good at work, he's going to start making some mistakes. And it's going to get upset because he never makes mistakes. It's just really good. A good bean counter. When Neptune hits it, you start missing beans here and there. And it can freak people out. But you would rather pay the price of missing a few beans and loosening up as opposed to continuing to get tight. See, the ego's only answer is get tighter, do it stronger, wrap it tighter, hit it harder, control it more. And the ego's just crazy. And it works against us. That's why what Brendan was asking. The ego's voice is loud with fear. The wisdom of the self is quiet with knowledge and with love and with faith. That's the difference. Now, let's go back. The third thing that's happening in the chart, and they're unbelievable, all three of these are major, is Uranus is sitting on this cusp. Uranus has gone from here to here. When he gets here, it'll be a midlife crisis, which is already starting since it's down here. So when Uranus enters the seventh house, several things happen. Number one, it's leaving the sixth house, which means you should have been the last 7 years developing a lot of computer skills. Now you're ready to take them forward into meeting people or your new position with people. What kind of work do you do?
I work in a restaurant. I've been a professional server for the last 20 years.
Okay. Well, even so, the path that Uranus takes to the sixth house is preparation for Uranus, because this is like a new persona that gets adopted when Uranus enters the seventh. Now, it's very likely at this time that you'll become a little bit restless about doing restaurant work and maybe want to do something else, because Uranus is real famous for that. I want to do something that give me a little more freedom, a little more exciting. Do you find any of that?
Oh, as soon as Uranus went into Taurus and my seventh whole sign house, I was
Okay.
like, get me the out of
Okay.
here.
Okay. So the guy, whole sign house means he's using a different house system where the seventh house begins with zero Taurus, where all the houses begin with zero of the sun sign. All these different house systems work. They just tell you a different little story. Okay. Well, now when the Uranus goes into seventh, one of the main things that everybody looks for, because everybody is seventh house crazy about relationships, getting married, getting divorced, pairing up, whatever. It doesn't mean you're going to get hitched. It doesn't mean you're going to get unhitched. But what it does mean is whatever relationship you have at this moment, being a Cancer, you're going to start favoring, am I being myself as opposed to seventh house Cancer? Am I safe with this person? Am I safe with this person? It's completely different. Am I alive with this person? You see the difference?
Mhm.
I've even given a lot of thought recently to how drastically opposite Aquarian energy is from Cancer energy. Aquarian being Uranus. Cancer energy is about being safe. It's cozy. Get a little blanket around me. We're not going out tonight. Shut the doors. And it's nice and cozy, and I'm safe. Cancers are obsessed with this word safe. And there really is no such thing, but they're still obsessed with it. And you can't blame them because somebody flicked them in the ocean. When they were making a zodiac, if you read that book, somebody flicked them in the ocean. When they weren't ready, didn't know how to swim. Somebody flicked them in the ocean. Splashdown. That's the title of the Cancer chapter. Splashdown. What do you think a Cancer does when they hit the water? They can't swim. They're just looking for anywhere to hang on and grab onto. Natural. So as Cancers go on through life, they become better swimmers, better at treading water. They become less dependent on others. But now it's going into your seventh house, and it wants to know, what kind of freedom do you have when you're with other people? Before it was me, others, me, ascendant, others, ascendant, me and you, seventh house. Before it was, how safe am I with you? How well are you taking care of my needs? I'm being blunt here, but that's what it is. I'm an expert on Cancer. I've done a lot of work on Cancer. How well am I in your hands? How good am I in your hands? Are you going to take care of me? Now Uranus is there. That ain't the question now. The question now is, how free am I to be myself when I'm with you? What am I allowing you to do to shape my identity? Because this is my identity. This is our identity. This is me and my identity, Aries. This is us, our identity together as a partnership. So things are really changing with you. You've got this whole issue changing. You got this whole issue of Venus, Neptune, going Venus, Neptune, with Neptune getting the upper hand right now, right?
Mhm.
And then you've got Pluto hitting the Mercury. And Eris is here squiring the Mercury.
True.
So you're going through tremendous change mentally. You're going through tremendous change as far as how you relate to people. You're going through tremendous change essentially as a lunar person, and you're not staying stuck like lunar people can stay stuck, be needy. You're getting past that. So all these things are really happening at the same time. And I'm sure this isn't easy. So what are you experiencing that follows in that line?
Which is sort of what it's bringing me here, right? Because I this past Sunday, this is a very Cancerian thing that I'm about to say. This past Sunday, I celebrated 18 years in this very same apartment. I've lived in the same apartment for 18 years, which is longer than I ever lived in Brazil or in any other place in my entire life.
That's
And
a very Taurian thing, and that's excellent.
yeah, and it's time to go. And
So you have graduated from this apartment.
yeah.
Okay, the word with Uranus is you graduated from it. Okay, now look at that 18 years. That's an excellent thing you did, because Cancer people are very, very much like the crab that goes under the rock, because under the rock they're safe. And that's your job, to take care of you. It's your job. But now, and under the rock, you can't breathe much more. And you can't get out you can't get out from under the rock unless some force comes along that matches that. The force is here. So what did the Uranus start telling you?
It's time to go.
It's been building on you since you said it when it entered Cancer, when it entered Taurus, which is about 4 years ago. So it's been building. It stays there 7 years. Uranus spends 7 years in Taurus, 7 years going through that 6th and 7th house. So when it got to your 7th house, which is around now, Uranus usually says, hey, I'm ready. It's not the day before. It's the day of. This planet's exact. And what is it telling you?
It's time to go.
Okay. When it's telling you it's time to go, what does that part of your yearning for safety say back to it?
I'm trying to find someone to take over my apartment for me. Because if I decide to come back, it would still be here for me. I may or may not come back. I have no idea, but that's me, my Cancerian self trying to.
We're talking about control on top of double control. I'm gonna let go, but in case I don't let go and it ain't right, I can get back in. Huh? How well you think that's gonna work? That's a really good one, Chow. That's a real good one. So I'm gonna take a risk, but I'm not gonna risk.
It's called the rental market in Toronto. Because I have a rent controlled apartment from 18 years ago, right? My apartment is affordable. If I leave and come back, the price is going to be double. And I'm like, oh, gee. So
this ain't got nothing to do with the price.
Yeah, probably.
No. Now, I'm not going to tell you not to do this. You could be absolutely right on track. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But the fact that you are leaving is a really good sign. There are so many things that happen astrologically to people when they let go of something and go do something else. I mean, it's just so positive. The things that your odds go straight up, even if you got a line, a tie to come back, you're still doing it. You're leaving. That's really, really good. I talked to a woman today and she was all flipped out and the world's going to end. And she thinks, on top of this, I also have to move. Oh, and she's got a design where it's going to be a disaster because I got to move on top of it. But she's going to have a lot of trouble. But if she just said, I'm just going to move, she would set when you set the universe in motion, you know the words, I don't know the terms. Set things in motion, put that out there. It's going to really help. It's going to be very positive. Okay, so what do we see in your chart? We see a very sensitive person who's been very comfortable, cozy for a long time because you needed it, and that's fine, who now needs to flap his wings some, which is really, really good, whose mind is changing, it's catching up, is getting more and more able to deal with things down deep. And Pluto's on what's Pluto on?
Mercury.
Pluto's on Mercury. Okay, so let's stop right there because there's a lot of things going on. And I think things are looking really good. The fact that out of this whole reading, the fact that you're moving out is excellent. It's going to relieve that system of all that stress. Because there are other parts of you that aren't happy about being there 18 years. There's another part of you, the Uranian part. It gets bored to death. It wants to see something else because it's capable. Now let's go back to the 12th harmonic. This is really intriguing because I didn't really find much in it. Now here is your 12th harmonic. This is the chart that is your spiritual transcript. It is a overall schematic of how you've been through many different lifetimes, especially with going towards God or going away from God. When you get into the harmonics, you're really talking about going to God or going away from God. There's stuff about being in the earth and being in the job and living in the house. Those things aren't even known to these charts. All right. There's the sun in Virgo on the ascendant. It's a very nice placement. Okay. This means that basically through many of your lifetimes, you've been pretty much a prepper, a person that's ready, who's skilled, can get things done. Okay, who's got a jack of all trades, Jupiter and Gemini, which is very nice. And that Jupiter is opposite two really unusual planets. It's opposite 3 Sag planets, and it's opposite Saturn and Uranus in Sag. So what this indicates to me, this whole axis, it just means that you're really capable of doing a lot of different things. I could put you in a new job, and you might have heartache for 1 week, and within a week, you got it figured out. You're just really adaptable. And that shows with your Venus and Gemini. This is a highly, highly adaptable person that's done a lot of different things in this world. Okay, this is interesting. Now, here's a really intriguing one. Pluto is opposite the moon. That's the hardest thing there is in astrology to figure out. It's really hard. It's kind of like hard to figure out where my mama was and where I was. Where's the dividing line? It can do with so many things. It can deal with emotional development. Was it curbed? Was it stopped? Did people try to stop me? Whatever. There's some kind of emotional issue going to play here. And the T-square goes to Mars and Aquarius. And Mars and Aquarius is all about being very humane, being out there with your friends, being very much into the environment, making things happen, working with your buddies. This is a really pretty good chart. Very dynamic chart. This is very strong. I don't think the moon Pluto is real troublesome. I don't know, but it would have hit exactly 17 and 23. This would have hit when you were about 6.5 years of age. So something could have hit your family rather intensely or hit you rather intensely around 6.5. And what commonly happens with Moon Pluto is you see something that only grown-ups should see. You see them at the age of 6.5, often sexual. Could have been somebody coming out of the bathroom. It could be something in a book. It can be anything. It really is hard to figure. But can you remember anything at 6.5?
No, I can't. I'm trying to.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Let it be. Let it sink in. But this Mars is really important. This 19th degree of Aquarius is your outlet. So when planets go over here, it's going to be a big deal. And who's coming near next? Saturn. Saturn is about 7. So in about 6 months or so, Saturn is going to go over here in your 12th harmonic. I'm not worried about it. I do think you should be in your 12th harmonic. I do think you should be a little cautious about your health. Okay. But when Saturn goes over, it'll probably start to solve this. Saturn's a really good transit. It does bring trouble with it, but it oftentimes just solves the problem because it's indicative of what you're working on. So Saturn's heading for that. And I think it's going to be very intriguing. I want you to keep a real close eye on what Saturn does when it goes over this. Go
And
ahead.
it's almost a perfect trine to that Jupiter in the 10th.
It's almost a perfect trine to that Jupiter in the 10th. Yes, exactly right. And also, this is a really nice grand trine. This Jupiter is trine to Venus and Mars. Venus, Mars, this red triangle. Venus and Mars trine to Jupiter. That's a lovely triangle for people. Venus and Mars has to do with the charming part of a person. If you saw me hounding that woman last week about how much charisma she had, that's because of her very enlightened Venus Mars. It's just when you got Venus and Mars clicking, it means you know when to call, you know when to wait. People with Venus square Mars, if they call, they feel like hell. If they wait, they feel like hell. They can't get in sync. Venus and Mars working together is very charming. So that's a very good sign of a lot of harmony in your past lives. A lot of harmony with your approaches to God and your spirituality. So we got to ask ourselves, where's all the Virgo stuff coming from? We got all this harmony in the 12th harmonic. Why'd you put 3 planets in Virgo, Joe? I mean, your son's been in Virgo, so you've obviously enjoyed it.
And the rising.
And rising, that's right. And Virgo's got its great parts of it, like any sign. Why do you think you put 3 planets in Virgo throughout all these lifetimes? I bet you're going to get this too. It's a hard question. I bet you're going to get it.
Why did I choose that?
Why were you so Virgo and through all these past lives and thusly putting all the Virgo in the natal chart? Why all the Virgo energy?
My mom's a Virgo.
Don't be critical on yourself. Answer the question directly.
I'm not sure. I am a perfectionist. I know that. I like to be on top of things and
right.
Be productive. And
that's not the answer.
Okay.
It's because you're pure.
Oh.
That's why. It's because you're pure and you care. And when we finish this book, I'm going to tell the story again. When we finished the book, I reread the Virgo chapter and I ripped it out. I said, there's too much talk in there again at all about perfection. It's all you hear about Virgo. I said, that's not it. I said, yeah, they're perfectionists, but I said, there's something else. And I found 2 other qualities that are more prominent: purity and caring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Virgos are.
But
don't laugh at them. They're pure and they care. What's that?
Their perfectionism is not to be a nag.
That's right.
Is to make it better.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But that's where it comes from. Mm-hmm. Some of them used it to be a nag, yes, but it comes from being pure and caring. And boy, the rest of the zodiac could sure use that. Mm-hmm. So we see a really good-hearted person in this 12th harmonic who's going through a Neptune transit now that's talking with all his Saturn planets, right? Who's got Uranus rising above the descendant because he's ready to meet the world. The Uranus has been below the ascendant his whole life, and now he's ready to come out and meet people. While Pluto's up on the Mercury, well, that makes sense because you're not going to succeed at these people in the world with your old software. You ain't going to do it. So your chart's very pure. Now, let's go back to the 12th harmonic. That's what I think. I don't know what these other astrologers do that aren't me. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. Okay, look at this. This very nice sun, which is square to Neptune, and that can make difficulty because it could be a little diluted if you're not careful. But so what? this Jupiter, this highly active 10th house, 4th house. Okay, so you got a tendency. Here's your answer. You've got a tendency when you got Jupiter and Gemini opposite Uranus and Sag, and Saturn and Sag, and Neptune and Sag. These are four major symbols of somebody getting spread too thin. They say yes, they say yes, they say yes. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there. Sign me up, sign me up. And they just get spread too thin. So the answer, the antidote is a bunch of Virgo planets. That's it. That's the antidote to the chart. Okay? Is because you've got this tendency in the Virgo. The reason that Sag says yes all the time is just because it gets excited. Count me in. Well, I don't care what we're doing. I'm in. Then they say, "What are we doing?" They're in because it's exciting, and I want to be in with the excitement. Okay, well then when they find out how much work's done, they usually back up, Susan, and they give it to all the Capricorns to do all the damn work. So I think that that's what's happening with this chart. Let's hear from you.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've had a couple times in my life when I had a little burnout, and I literally had to step back and say, "Okay,
that's right.
I need to cut these things out because
yes, that's right.
It's becoming too much."
Okay,
and it didn't
now
happen only once; it has happened a couple of times.
Well,
so.
That ain't bad. But let me get to the good stuff now. All right, you ready? The good stuff now.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get around this because we're all getting it now. We're all getting the Pluto square Aries. All of us. And I don't care who I'm reading for, I'm telling all of them, if you're thinking big, well, then think a whole lot bigger and then think bigger than that and let's go. That's what's going on. This woman's driving herself all around the damn country. Now she's in the middle of California having a blast. She could be back in Cleveland suffering. But no, she could be in the winter weather. But no, she's going to be at the beach and stuff. She's doing it right. I'm telling you exactly.
My idol.
Huh? What?
She's my idol.
Of course she is. Now, let me tell you what's happening here. Okay. When you're under Pluto, it means you're under Aries because they're both squaring each other. Okay. What this means now, this 18 years of you hibernating was necessary.
Yeah.
No criticism. And there's no problem going back there if you have to. But it ain't time to go back now. It's time to go do something big. And what are you going to do big? We look at your sixth harmonic. Okay? Because it's time for you to act big. Come out and do something big. Let's go to your sixth harmonic. I wish I could remember. I came up with a name for this chart a couple of months ago, and I forgot it after one use. I call it the destiny chart. I call it the hero's journey chart. Here it is. But I can't remember what name I came up with it then. Now you got the sun on the ascendant this time in Sag. The critical thing at the top is the sign at the top of the chart happens to be
Virgo.
Virgo. Okay, it's fine. Virgo people oftentimes are, besides being waiters, they love to serve. They're oftentimes nurses. They're physician's assistants. They work in aids. They work in hospice, taking care of people, fixing things. All right, this is the chart telling me what you're good at. Okay, you got the sun rising. The sun has just risen, sitting there. Jupiter's in Scorpio. Look at that T-square. Neptune at 4. Saturn, Uranus at 10, T-square to Jupiter and Scorpio. Ooh, you know what this means? This means not only come with me, group, not only am I going to lead you, group, but you can get behind my passion. My passion will lead us. This is like the guy, who did he go down through southern Italy? Was it El Cid? Who was it? No, he was, it was El Cid. He got the slaves to follow in his revolt. That's what this is. This is a charismatic leader. Okay? for whatever the cause is, and the cause is Virgoan. Virgoan means helping the underdog, helping people get trained. It's definitely the underdog. It's health institutions, helping people be preventative with their health. Okay, we look over here. We see Venus and Aries, opposite Chiron, the Pluto, Neptune in the eighth. This intriguing triplicate here of Saturn, Uranus, Mercury, all in Aquarius. So this sixth harmonic is about you leading people in a Virgoan way with the Scorpio passion behind you. Now, what does that tell you?
I'm not sure at this exact moment.
All right. Take your time. Maybe take you a few weeks even to think about it. You can watch the video.
Mhm.
Now, let's take a look at that again and see what's being transited. And they tell me that harmonics can't be believed with transits. Well, they're crazy. Yeah, they just, if you look at the chart, you'll see it happening. All right. So in your sixth harmonic, where's Pluto sitting? Pluto's sitting here, opposite Pluto, which is theoretically impossible, but you got Pluto opposite Pluto. So in other words, the Pluto in your chart's being activated. It's the nature of a harmonic. So this is indicative that this thing in you, this purpose part of you, my hero's journey is starting to really, they're putting coal in the furnace. Okay? There's lots of coal in the furnace. I'm ready to go. Neptune's sitting, it's just gone across here in the last couple of years, and it's past there now. It's at 21 degrees. And I like that very much because the Neptune's off of you now, and when it moves a little bit past you, you can usually see it a little clearer. It's too fuzzy when it's exact. And the Neptune means, yeah, I wasn't crazy. I've made that spiritual attainment, and I want to put spiritual elements into my work. Yes. Okay? Here, Uranus. Uranus is around 12, 13. It's about 13 here. So it's all done with that. So that's really been hitting you pretty hard the past couple of years. So the past couple of years, Uranus has been hitting that Jupiter and has been trying to get you get moving. Let's get with this thing. Okay?
And you know something else that I noticed there? I'm going in the sixth harmonic chart, I'm going through a Saturn return.
Very good. Very good stuff. Yes, you are going through a Saturn return, which has to be treated differently than a natal chart, but it is a Saturn return. It is opposite Neptune. Okay, so a Saturn return is indicative that it's all coming together. So we see what? We see a birth chart that's very friendly, that's a little bit mixed up with social relating rules for yourself. You're just not quite sure what you want those rules to be for you. In the natal chart, you're getting a lot stronger mentally, right? You're coming to life socially. We look into the past life. The past life is really in pretty good shape, except you overdid it a little bit and you got spread too thin. So you come into this life, you put a bunch of Virgo in there, which helps you, and you're going to keep those Virgo traits, and you need to lean very heavily on those parts of Virgo that are purity. You're a pure person, and you should hang out with people that are pure and people that do care, or get the hell out.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be around half-assed people. That's what Virgos hate. They just can't stand. Somebody does a half-assed job. Somebody goes home from work early. Somebody doesn't care. That just drives them nuts because they just got that caring sense. Most of them.
You're absolutely right.
Now, what's really interesting about this now, for all of us, thank God, I'll be talking about this next year, Pluto's going to start to separate from Aries Thank God. Then we're only going to have a Pluto return in the USA's chart. But at least Pluto and Aries will start to separate for many, many, many years. So what this is about, this is kind of like, you're coming into your Uranus opposite Uranus. This is kind of like you're coming out of the womb for a second time. That's what I'm seeing here. And, the whole first trip through, it was just on schedule. You're right on track. But one of the things you need to do in this second half, these are my opinions, and these are based on a lot of people I've talked with. Don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to anybody. You got the fires going. You got the intelligence. You got the knowledge. Don't worry about being taken care of. Don't worry about being people being sensitive to you, because you're going to bring that to yourself because you've cared enough to move out. That was the turning point, moving out, because you then finally started to listen and respect that part that wanted to move out. Because that wasn't, I want to move out to be a clown. It was, I want to move out to grab life. So I could feel you shining over here, for all the way from Toronto down to Pittsburgh. You're shining really well, and I think it's really good. And I can feel Susan's happy for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it makes perfect sense. Even this new moon today,
In Scorpio,
directly opposing Uranus, it's right on my ascendant. There's a reason why I had to speak to you today. We went back and forth on the dates a little bit there. I just I'm still playing it safe. My mom makes fun of me for playing it safe, but she's like that. She makes fun of people.
Mom, this is how he has to move. Now, let me tell you an interesting thing that happened today. I said to Liza, people are writing all these articles because there's a new moon in Scorpio. Ooh, and they're writing all about Scorpio. Ooh, and they're writing all about new beginnings. Ooh. Well, let me ask you a question. What do you think a new moon in Scorpio is today compared to a new moon in Scorpio 7 years ago?
It's the same. The only difference that this one is opposite Uranus.
Now, that's a good point that you're pointing out there about the opposition to Uranus. Yes, but the point is how much Scorpio energy is in the air. Tons of it's in the air because the Pluto return is starting and because the Pluto is squaring Aries. So then you come along and trigger it with a new moon in Scorpio. That's what I mean. It's much heavier than just telling the people, hey, we got a new moon this weekend. It's time to plant and put your wishes on your windowsill. No, this is we're talking about, if you've not been with us lately, we're talking about the end of the spiritual dark ages in this country. It's that big. It's that big. And I notice you're being very careful, and that's not the Cancer in you. I think that's very smart. That's the Virgo in you that wants to think things through, more thoroughly, etc. I think that's very good. But I'm going to tell you a couple of things while we got our last 22 minutes left. Think 10 times bigger than what you've been thinking, because you're thinking big, and you can do this. You're going to be supported. You're going to be supported. And the more you go with the thinking big, the safer you're going to be. So I don't know, but let's talk in general. We saw a pretty nice sixth harmonic. What kind of things are on your mind, on your plate for the next, let's say next couple of years?
What I want to do, so this is where things get tricky for me, because for me, Canada is my home, right? I chose it to be here. I've been told, a friend of mine who is like a mother to me, she makes a joke that I was only born in Brazil because the stork was drunk that day and dropped me off at the wrong spot. I was here, I was traveling when I was 15. Here, I have family here, so I was here. And I just looked at my parents and I said, this is where I want to live. I want to spend the rest of my life here. And 3 years later, I was here. So I'm established here. I'm at the top of my industry and all of that. And I need to go. And that for me is very hard to say, and so the only way that I can allow myself to even consider this is to say, I'm going for 6 months to a year. And
okay, now wait a minute. You're going, why are you going?
The why, I'm not sure. I need a break. I need to go. I think Susan gets this. I need a break. I just need to go. And, like I've said before, like I want to go to Portugal for a while. For the first time, I'm considering going to Brazil I have not been to Brazil in 22 years. And it's the first time that I'm actually considering doing that. There is something telling me that I need to go check on my mom. We've had a very convoluted relationship, but she's 78. And there is something now saying, you need to go check that out in person.
Well, you're exactly right. The natal chart or Saturn.
Yeah,
You see
right in the fourth.
Saturn here?
Yeah.
When Saturn gets here, crosses the nadir, as it did in the last 2 years, that's uncannily how you have to just stop what you're doing and go back home and take care of mom and pop. It's just unbelievable how often that happens. Now, I think you're on the right track, especially because you're not letting the Virgo planets win. Because they'll say, shut up, quit whining, get back to your job, get another paycheck, right?
Yes.
And they're not right. They're not right. They're right a lot of the time. You don't know how much death the Virgo planets cause in people. It just does, because it just harangues them for the health insurance and putting food on the table. And what it can do, if they're not careful, it beats up their instincts. This is why it's so terrific for you. It's also why you can't see clearly yet, because you got to get Saturn off your back first. Then you'll see clearer. Okay? But yeah,
I want to go. I want to check it out. Portugal could work out. It could not. I don't know. And that's why I'm like, let me keep my apartment. And if I want to come back, I'll come back. But even last week, I made another decision that if Portugal doesn't work out, then 15 years ago, I started studying French so that I could move to Montreal. And I never did that. And I'm like, oh, maybe now I'll just move to Montreal. And I have a job lined up in Montreal, like all these things, because I'm always like, got to put food on the table, got to, keep it.
Yeah, but let me tell you what, this is a really smart, cool warning here. The more you take control with you, the more you're going to fail. You can control when it's time to control, but when Uranus is around, it's when you give up control and you get into the rapids and you just get in. Okay? And I'm telling you the truth. Susan asked a question, which I thought was kind of an interesting.
I didn't see.
She said, when I was in the chat, why wouldn't that nervous Mercury energy of Virgo feed into the Uranus transit? Well, it does. It does feed in. It does feed into it. But the Virgo energy with 3 planets, especially Saturn, is all about being controlling everything. And Uranus is what put you on the road, Susan. It's what putting him on the road. There's an opposite energy to control. There's an opposite energy to Saturn, and that energy is Uranus. And it's outer planet. Outer planets boss the inner planets. And Uranus has a naked, invisible wisdom that it's hinting to him. He says, I don't know what it's about, but I just want to go. That's where it's coming from. Uranus gives you a higher wisdom, intuitive zaps. It just does. That's how it works. Gee, it's why it's a genius planet.
Yeah.
We have
There is
no idea what's going to happen in Brazil or in Portugal.
there
There's
is
no,
there is a wonderful astrologer that I follow too, because I'm going down a path of Hellenistic astrology. So how I would interpret a chart is very different from you. And that's why I wanted to do with you,
that's right.
because it's so different that I like, okay, let me get a different perspective here. But in how I look at it, for example, she was talking about Uranus and how Uranus relates to the myth of Prometheus. And there was one
That's
thing that
right.
she said in this thing that she was reading that like just so spoke to me, which was when you're going through a Uranus transit, you start questioning, why is it that all of these things that I've worked so hard for many years to have peace and security and, and a foundation in my life, things that I worked for, that I wanted, that I've created, I no longer find any joy in them. And that's just where I am. That's where I've been since 2019. And that's why I'm like, I need to, if I don't go, I feel like something horrible is going to happen. Like I just have to go.
Well, the most horrible thing that can happen is you ignoring the Uranian part of yourself. Because Uranus is not there to take you to a party. It's not there to split you in half. Uranus is there to respect and express the Fred Rogers part of you called your individuality. There is no one like you. That's what he kept saying. He was exactly right. That's what Uranus does. He's the champion of that voice. And he is not going to be served with safety, safety, safety. Now, when he's tired and he needs somewhere to lay down, that's different. Give him a place to lay down. But Uranus doesn't get tired. Uranus is massively powerful energy. And you will calm down and you will resettle later on. But you've got to first go through the Uranus passage of the renewal. And that's why at the Uranus opposite Uranus, in midlife crisis, that's what the people do these things for. They get a 18-year-old chick, they get a motorcycle, they go to Vegas, they get their shades on and they leave their family and leave the mother with a 3-year-old because they think that being reborn means go back to their youth. It doesn't. All the midlife crisis about is I'm now 42, I'm 41. Have I kept myself alive while I'm doing these things? Or have I sold myself out as I've been paying the mortgage? I think you're right on track. You're right on track. I think your travels are going to shock you. I think they're going to be much more exciting and revealing and liberating than you can even imagine. That's the flip side of what Uranian people say. Uranian people, if they don't get all split apart and get migraines and stuff, they come back and say, oh, it was the most thrilling, exciting trip I ever had. And you always ask them, was it liberating? And they go, yeah. Did it free you? Oh, yeah, it freed me. That's what happens when you let go. And you can't stop and convince Virgo planets. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. Everything's planned. It's on an Excel spreadsheet. Not Uranus. So all you got to do is talk to the Virgo planets because they're not going anywhere. And say, look, we need to work together, and I've leaned on you too much for too long. But as you've done, thank you very much. You served your purpose, but now it's time for me to express some of these other energies. And then as soon as those new energies get torn and frayed and tattered, the Saturn will come back in and start building you a nice hut, and it'll start to re-secure you. But I suggest to you that you need to give some thought to what, beside what you want to discover about yourself, you need to give some thought to what do you want to do to the world? Because the world's in trouble. You're going out, and you may not know, but you're going out to contribute to helping save part of it. So where is it that you want to contribute?
In this,
In what?
helping people through astrology. That's what I would love to do.
Do you hear that, Brendan? See what I started on here? Well, it's marvelous because there are very few people that could do it. It's really, really hard. It's really easy to get on a wrong foot. And I like that you mentioned Hellenistic astrology. For those of you that don't know, there's a lot of thought given to the fact that a lot of the original astrology went through Greece, thus the word Hellenistic. And in those days, those people did some really amazing work. And they're the ones that had to look at the planet and ascertain, what does the planet mean? Where did they get these definitions from? And a lot of their definitions are very coarse and they're very rough, and some of them are just flat wrong. But Mars being the aggressive planet, Venus being the pleasant, where did they get that from? That's what Hellenistic astrology is based on. It's more basic, and they all have their place. Vedic astrology has it, Hellenistic has it, Western has it, Humane has it. It's just I'm kind of stuck in my sort of psychological archetypal. That's the place I'm at. It's not going to be where you're at, and there'll be some things. Ptolemaic is a house system.
Mm-hmm.
But you and everybody here probably will benefit some of what I've given you, and you'll.
Yes.
My astrology students all go off on their own transits, their own tributary.
I wanted to ask you.
You would be very good with this.
Thank you.
No doubt.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You will be.
I wanted to ask you about my solar return for this year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, and it wasn't July, right?
Yes.
Yeah, let's take a look at that because they're really, really accurate. You want to know the one you're in, right?
Yes, that's right.
And
it was in Toronto that I spent.
Okay. Yeah, you have a lot of grip on it already. You're really pretty advanced. Okay, so we go back to your birthday. And here is your current solar return. For those of you not used to this, we've asked the computer to figure for Toronto the exact moments that his birthday occurred. Not the time, but when the sun was exactly in the same place, lined up with the outer stars way out here. So this is your birthday cake. And they're really accurate. You look at the sun, since it's a solar chart, what house it's in, 11th. You look at the rest of the chart, and it tells you the flavor of what he'll be doing this year. Well, he's coming to life intellectually with Aries on the cusp and the moon and Uranus at the tip of a T-square. And this new intellectualism is what's getting him out of his 18-year apartment for a while. He's got Venus and Mars in Leo. What a pizzazz there is there. But he's got a hat over it. He put a hat over the light bulb. Why do you do that? We don't know yet. Remember that, Joe. When you don't know, you don't know. Put a hat over it. Put it on the back burner. Let it sit there. It's opposite Saturn. That's why it's still opposite Saturn. He's not comfortable going anywhere, doing anything, unless he takes a little bit of Saturn with him. Okay, this means you're going to be creative as hell, but I'll keep an eye on you. Creative as hell. But we're going to really work hard to do our research. So it's obvious to me that Jupiter is wonderful here. The Jupiter Neptune is a sign of you really coming into some nice friends, working with nice relationships and all. But it's really apparent here. How do you put this? Your chart is not comfortable going out the door without the cane. Okay? And you're going to need a cane as long as you need a cane. And you'll give up the cane when you can give up the cane. And you would actually do yourself more harm to leave the cane behind and force yourself to walk without it. At the same time, you got all these marvelous skills. And I can tell by talking to you folks, including Linda here. I know who's good. I know who's got astrological ability. It's an nth sense that you got to have. It's an archetypal sense. And I can already tell that you're quite different than I am. And that's good because we all go different things, you know. But I think I've given you a lot.
Yes.
But I think it's pretty apparent in your astrological style. I think you're going to see in your style as it evolves, you're going to have a Saturnian element in it. And Saturn rules the old days. That may be why you're in the Hellenistic stuff. Whatever. Saturn, it's really sucks big how people put Saturn down.
Mhm.
It's really wrong because it does have its problems, but it does a lot of damn things right. It just does. And I think that that's going to really help you as long as you don't let the Virgo incense get you afraid to feel or to entrap you. But I think we've done a pretty good job with your chart. I mean,
Yes.
I don't think we solved everything, but I think we got the issues out and on the table. They're on the table bouncing around, you know, to be discussed.
It's time to go.
Yeah, and also I don't think a lot of this stuff surprised you. I think you're pretty much aware, and that's a good thing. You got a good sense of your chart. But we got the main stuff out, and we got the big transits out, and the big harmonics.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I know nothing of is the harmonics. Right?
Nobody does.
I know nothing about
Nobody does because they all believe that you can't put them in the houses, you can't put them in the signs, you can't do aspects, and you can't do transits, and they're all wrong. I see. I'm showing you every week how they work.
Mhm.
Just put them out there, use your intuition. For whatever reason, you use the even numbered ones. The odd numbers don't do much. Use especially 4, 6, 8, 10, mainly 6 and 12, 6 and 12, 6 and 12. That's in my findings. And I'm too tired to write a book on this. I should write a book on harmonics, but it's just such a massive effort and I just don't have it. So they're going to have to wade through all these free videos. Give it a shot. Do some 12th harmonics. You'll be stunned. That's what you find in it. Ask yourself in a natal chart, what is it that's unusual here? What did a person do in the past life that made them form that current incarnation the way they did? And keep going back and forth with the natal and the 12th. And pretty soon you'll start getting the answers.
Yeah. But it's interesting for me to see because you were asking, why did I put all those planets in Virgo, you know? And when we look at a 12th harmonic, I have the sun tightly conjunct the ascendant in Virgo. So
yeah, but we also saw all the Gemini Sag with 5 planets. That's the reason why.
Mhm.
Because you just can't let all Gemini Sag. It just goes off the wall. It has no control. I watch a lot of murder shows to concentrate on the birthdays of the killers and the victims. But by the way, most of the victims are Tauruses and Pisces. And that's most of the victims are Tauruses and Pisces. I don't know why. Well, actually, I think I do. Anyhow, I was watching this chart last night or 2 nights ago of this guy that was just all Sag and he was just all Gemini. And he was in his cell. He'd been arrested for serial killing. And he was just telling his cellmate how pumped up he would get and just get excited. He was just like a sporting event. Sag and Gemini energy and Pisces energy, certain signs of the zodiac, don't have control. They have to get control from somewhere. And some signs have too much control. So you need a real blend. Like with Susan here. Susan has a Sag Gemini combination, but she's got Saturn next to Venus. So that gives her enough control to keep her, she can keep the enthusiasm coming, but Saturn can help her not to get too enthused and not too spaced out. It's been a wonderful evening. I'll get with you, Brendan, when I get some time. Thank you. And thanks everybody who's tuned in. You YouTubers, if you want to join us live any Thursday night at 8 o'clock, just go to Google, type in Astrology Unplugged. It will give you the link to join us live. 8 o'clock Thursday nights Eastern. All you need is a camera and the courage. Hey, you're really in good shape. Very proud of you, and very excited for you. Don't be afraid to call if you need some talking about going with astrology, because starting up a career it's not a simple matter.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And maybe I can help you avoid a couple bruises.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Marcia.
How many years does it take to learn enough to go professional?
Oh, I think you can do it in 3. I did it in 3. I've had students do it in 3. To get to where you keep major chunks of egg off your face takes about 20.
Okay.
You're getting lots of egg on your face for 20 years. After about 20 years, that's what it was with me. Then that's when you start to say, yeah, I do know what I'm saying. I'm not going to shut myself up. I do know what I'm saying. Go forward and multiply, Joe.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it, Rick.
You are certainly welcome. Come and don't be a stranger. Bye-bye.
No, I won't. Good night, everyone.
See y'all.
Bye.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Joel.
Bye,
We'll
Erica.
post pictures. We'll post pictures on the Facebook
Everybody
page.
say his name at once. Say his name.
Joel.
Joel.
Wow, Joel.
Wow.
Thank you.